The PMBOK Guide 8th edition is about to be published soon. Some people say it will be released in January 2026, but that's not true. If you want to know the exact release date of the PMBOK Guide 8th edition and also when and how it will affect the PMP exam, then you should watch this video. But before that, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Sabri C. I've been teaching project management since 2008 and I'm the instructor of the best-selling PMP exam prep course on Udemy. Thousands of professionals have passed their exams with this course. I've placed the course link below so that you can pass the exam before the changes take effect. Okay, as I said at the beginning of this video, I learned the exact release date of the PMBOK Guide 8th edition. Some instructors say it will be released on January 13th, 2026, but that's not true. How do I know? Let's learn it. Let's go to the Amazon.com. I will simply search for PMBOK 8th edition. Now, I will click here for the 8th edition. So, what do we have here? This is the pre-order link to the PMBOK Guide 8th edition. You can order both the paperback version and the Kindle version. The seller is PMI itself, therefore we can trust this official link. As you can see here, the Kindle version will be delivered on November 2025. Therefore, this means the 8th edition will be released on November 2025, not on January 13, 2026. January 13th is the release date of the paperback version, but the actual release date is 2 months earlier, November 12th. Now, if the 8th edition will be published on November 12th, how will the exam be affected by this change? First of all, please know that the PMP exam is based on the PMP exam content outline, ECO, not the PMBOK guide itself. The PMP ECO is the official document published by PMI that defines the domains, tasks, and enablers on which the exam questions are built. In other words, all exam questions follow the pattern provided in the PMP ECO. The PMBOK guide is just one of the references that supports this outline. The latest version of the exam content outline has been effective since January 2021. PMI updates the exam content outline every 4 to 5 years. Therefore, we should expect an update to the PMP ECO in the next few months. Once the new ECO is published, PMI will give at least 6 months before the new ECO takes effect. So, based on this, we can predict that the PMP exam will undergo significant changes in the second or third quarter of 2026. Do not expect any major changes before that time. But what about the PMBOK Guide 8th edition? Will it affect the exam after it gets released? Well, although the exam pattern is based on the PMP ECO, the PMBOK Guide is a reference for the exam. This means the concepts, practices, and terminology introduced in the 8th edition may gradually appear in exam questions, especially once they align with the domains and tasks defined in the ECO. In other words, the PMBOK Guide alone will not trigger an immediate change to the exam, but over time, its content will influence the types of examples, scenarios, and wording used in the questions. But how big of a change are we talking about? To understand how much the 8th edition will affect the exam, we first need to look at the previous 6th and 7th editions. So let's talk about those a little. In 2017, PMI published the 6th version of the PMBOK Guide. In this edition, PMI explains the methods and processes that are very useful in predictive environments. Although it mentions agile and hybrid projects as well, the 6th version is mostly about managing predictive projects. It talks about 10 knowledge areas and 49 processes we can use in predictive environments. Also, in 2017, PMI published a brand new guide named the Agile Practice Guide for the first time. In this guide, PMI talks about agile and hybrid environments and how we can manage our projects in such environments. Therefore, unlike the 6th edition, this guide is about projects that are conducted in agile and hybrid environments. Although predictive and agile have very different mindsets, the idea behind most of the processes and methods is quite similar. We apply similar steps at a high level, but how we apply those steps differs depending on the environment we are in. Instead of focusing on processes and knowledge areas that apply only to predictive environments, PMI choose to emphasize the high level steps that can be applied when conducting a project in the next edition. Therefore, they published the 7th edition of the PMBOK guide in July 2021. We can place the 7th edition at the intersection of the 6th edition and the Agile Practice Guide like this. Unlike the 6th edition, the 7th edition applies to any environment. Whether we are in a predictive or adaptive environment, we can apply the steps explained in the 7th edition. Then, what happened to the 6th edition? Is it gone? Are the knowledge areas and processes in the 6th edition are gone forever? No, neither the 6th edition nor the knowledge areas and processes are gone. They are still there. PMI published a new book called Process Groups, a practice guide, and included all 49 project management processes in that book. Therefore, when reading the 7th edition, whenever we want to learn more about a technique or process in detail, we can refer to the Process Groups book and explore that technique or process further. This is how we can effectively use the 7th edition. This approach is misunderstood by some people. They thought the processes were gone forever. I guess PMI realized this misunderstanding, and for that reason, they decided to return to their classic style as in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition and all the editions before that. Therefore, in this figure, we can place the PMBOK Guide 8th edition here like this. As you can see, the 8th edition covers the processes explained in the Process Groups book, in other words, the 6th edition, the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, and finally the Agile Practice Guide. In this new edition, we don't have 49 processes as in the 6th edition, but 40 processes. This is because some knowledge areas have been integrated into a single knowledge area. In fact, in the 8th edition, the term performance domain is used instead of knowledge area. For example, the quality management processes have been moved and integrated into the scope performance domain processes. Similarly, the communications management processes have been placed under the stakeholders domain. Procurement management processes are mentioned in the appendix rather than in the main performance domain section, but they are still included in the PMBOK guide. Although some process names have changed, the information provided in the 8th edition is not very different from what we had in the 6th and 7th editions, along with the Agile Practice Guide combined. Of course, we have some new tools, techniques, and additional information as well, but it is not a major fundamental change. Now, what does this mean? It means that the changes to the exam due to the PMBOK Guide 8th edition will not be significant. The release of this new edition will affect the exam only slightly. 3 to 4 months after its release, we may start seeing the names of some of the new tools and techniques in the question scenarios, and that's it. The real exam changes will happen after the release of the new PMP Echo, not after the release of the 8th edition. The exam pattern will remain the same until the new PMP Echo takes effect. If anyone tells you that the PMP exam will change significantly after the release of the 8th edition, that is simply not true. So, you still have time to take the current PMP exam, and I strongly suggest that you take your exam before the new PMP Echo is released. The reason is that once the Echo becomes effective, the exam questions may change significantly, and finding reliable study sources for the new exam will be harder. We don't know the exact release date of the new ECHO, but as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, PMI updates it every 4 to 5 years. Since the latest version has been effective since January 2021, we can expect it to be updated in the coming months. So, study hard and pass the current exam before the changes happen after the release of the new PMP exam content outline. I'll create new videos when the updated PMP Echo is released or whenever we get new information about it. So make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the latest updates.